Welcome back to Terrastorian, part 2, I guess this will be, where we shall be looking at the known races and threats on Terra in the Arknights universe. If you haven't seen part 1, then do check out our first video. Anyway, let's begin with the races, then threats. There are many beautiful, interesting, and marvelous races on Terra. However, it is important to make it clear that all races have differences. Some races are younger than others, some enjoy conflicts and wars, others want peace, or to make an impact on the world. But interestingly, a vast majority of races aren't even native to Terra. These races can be categorized as Ancients and Elders races, while other races with 𝙉𝙀𝙒𝙀𝙄𝙀 heritage are the native races. To make this easier, we shall break down the races in selections: Ancients, Elders, 𝙉𝙀𝙒, and others. An interesting question that normally comes up within Arknights Lore is, can an individual have a child with someone from a different race? If so, what race would that child be? If two people from different races do have a child, they will either be one or the other race, a 50-50 let's say, of what their child would be. An example would be, if a feline or a libri had a child, it would be either a feline or a libri. It can't be a mixture of the two. However, they will take traits of their parents, either hair color, eye color, for example. Ancient races are the largest category for races. They are also one of the two categories of races that aren't native to Terra. Our first race we shall speak about is the 𝙉𝙀𝙒. Based on aquatic creatures, this race comes from the nation of 𝙉𝙀𝙒. Others can be found on the mainland, such as Iberia or Higashi. The 𝙉𝙀𝙒 though are somewhat strangers to the races of the land. 𝙉𝙀𝙒 also have been in a long conflict with the Seaborn, a background threat that threatens to simulate the rest of the world, though it seems that the 𝙉𝙀𝙒 are one of the reasons for the Seaborn to be pushed that way. A tale for another time. One outstanding thing about the 𝙉𝙀𝙒 is that they are unbelievably arrogant and stuck up. Since the 𝙉𝙀𝙒 have more advanced technology compared to any of the races on the land, they tend to look down on them and see themselves as superior. Probably one of the most popular and populated race is the felines. This race is based on cats and can be mainly found in Victoria. However, they can still be found all over Terra. There are overall 39 operators in Arknights that are playable who are felines. Aslans are thought to be a separate race to felines. However, this is not true. Aslans are felines that have self-appointed themselves to a more nobility race. However, they still do rule Sargon with power and eventually moving to Victoria and now fighting over the throne there against the Dracos. The Vori are based on wyverns or lesser dragons. This race can be found around in Sargon, where they potentially originated from and have ventured to Victoria. The Vori are known to have higher physical strength and endurance than most other races. 𝙁𝙁𝙁, the race with deer-like traits. This race can mainly be found in Lefania, but also in the far north in Sami. You can find other 𝙁𝙁𝙁 in Victoria and Yan. There is also a potential subrace of 𝙁𝙁𝙁 that are based with traits from giraffes. With equine traits and features, Kurunta are based on horses and even zebras. Kuruntas are known to be born with fast running and stamina. A vast majority of Kuruntas are born in Casimir, the land of the knights, and Kuruntas currently the only known race to have two elder race siblings, which we will get on to later. Lupo, the wolves of Terra. This race is mainly found within Syracuse, but also can be found in other places such as Sargon and Victoria. Horn's family came from Sargon and ended up in Victoria. 𝙁𝙁𝙁, the second highest most operators in Arknights of 35 operators. 𝙁𝙁𝙁 are based on birds. Most 𝙁𝙁𝙁 can be found in Colombia, Iberia, and a few in Laterano. Volpo, having similar traits to Lupo, and sometimes confused with Lupo, this race is actually based on foxes. Volpo can be found in Syracuse, Colombia, and Sami. Archosauria, having traits from crocodilians. They also have similar pointy ears to others like Sarkaz and Vivori. From what we do know, majority of the males are anthropomorphic, while females aren't. This could be a case of sexual dimorphism. This race comes from Sargon. Anura, a race based on frogs. This race came from Sargon. Across some parts of Terra, including Iberia, where they are treated roughly and used as experiments. We only know of one Anura, and that is Blue Poison, who is based on the Blue Poison dart frog. A race we don't know much about is the Manticore, and despite being based on a mythical creature, this race can be found in small parts of Sargon, and are rare, or they just want to keep away from other races. Caprinae, one of the common races found in Lafania. The Caprinae have treats from goats and sheep. Cultus, the rabbit and the hare race, mainly found and born in Rembiliton. Cerato is based on rhinos, with the classic rhino-like horn on their forehead. We know of one Cerato, and that is Bubbles. If felines are the cat people of Terra, then the Pero are the dog people of Terra. This race can mainly be found in Bolivar. Petram are similar to Anura. There is currently one known character in the game, but Petram are based on tortoises and turtles. Not much is known about this race, other than there are small Petram settlements around Terra that house excellent or great craftsmen. However, we do know more about the next race, which is the Pythia, based on serpents and having snake-like tails and pointy ears to other races. Pythia, like snakes of the real world, have acute and delicate senses. Pythia are a rare or at least uncommon race. Despite this, they can be found all over Terra. The Forte race have traits from bovines and camelids. The Forte are the main inhabitants of Minos. Pilosa, another race that only has one known character. This race is based on sloths, and that's all we know about them. Anate are a race based on otters, weasels and raccoons. Rubber are based on hyenas. Nothing much is known other than they come from Sargon. Savara are a race based on lizards and some amphibians like salamanders. The land of Ursus, like we mentioned, was named after this bear-like race called the Ursus. The Zalak are based on rodents including rats, mice and squirrels. Zalaks can also be found all over Terra and known to have acute senses. Hailing from beyond Terra, the Elder races, once mighty rulers who overshadowed their ancient brethren in power, held dominion over the nations. However, their numbers have dwindled, leaving only a handful of nations under their rule. Their forms bear resemblance to mythical creatures of our own world. Draco, with traits based on European dragons in mythology, they are famous for their racial gift over fire manipulation, but they also have increased vitality and strength. Dracos became rulers of Victoria and Tara, a piece of land that became a part of Victoria, eventually getting in conflict with the self-appointed Aslans over the throne. Over the years, the Dracos have become rarer and potentially extinct. We only know of 3 Dracos in Arknights: Reed, her sister Eblana, and Tallulah. Hippogriff Libri. This elder race of Libri is based on hippogriffs in mythology, and once ruled over the nation that is now called Ursus. However, like we mentioned previously, this race failed to protect their land, and the Ursus rebelled. While they already are dethroned, they have kept their nobility status and known to have longer lifespans. Kitsune. This elder race, based on the nine-tailed fox, are found in Higashi. They are said to be religious leaders and have some sort of connection to the founding of the nation. Kukulkan, based on the Mayan plumed serpent, and an elder race. However, after the loss of their abilities, now they practice an odd ritual, which reduced their lifespan greatly, but gain the collective memory of their ancestors. One thing about this race is that we don't know if they are categorized as an Elder Pythia or an Elder Libri. 𝙀𝙀𝙒𝙀𝙀, based on the 𝙀𝙀𝙀, a mythical beast from China, is an elder race found in Yan. Not much is known about them. Liches is the only known member of this race so far. While Dracos are the dragons of the west, the Lungs are the dragons from the east. Lungs are found in Yan, and one of the main ruling races of Yan. The Emperor is a Lung, and the ruling family of Lungs are often known as the True Lung. 𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀 is, in fact, the older twin brother of the Emperor of Yan. Knight Moza Kurunta, one of the two Kurunta elder races. This elder race of Kurunta once struck fear into the people's hearts of Terra, and led a conquest across Terra, from around the north of Terra to Sargon and then back to the north again, where they are hardly seen again. However, there are small clans around in the north, potentially, and in Sargon. Knight Moza are based on folklore called the Nightmare or the Mare, which is seen in Dutch, German, Norse and English folklores and stories. The Knight Moza are known to have a racial gift to use illusion arts. Despite this, they seem to have a sense and culture over honour and glory. Pegasus Kurunta is one of the races that stood up against their sibling race of the Knight Moza and protected their homeland Casimir. Pegasus Kurunta are based on the mythological creature, the Pegasus. Pegasus Kurunta still hold strong respect and force within their land, but slowly their authority has dwindled over time, after holding back the Knight Moza. This elder race is famous for its control over light and illumination art. Pegasus Kurunta also seem to share a same trait of light-coloured hair, such as white, blonde, and gold. Other potential elder races we may have are an elder race of Rabar, the Tula family, another elder race of Kurunta, the Unicorn Kurunta, an elder race of Pero, the Cerberus Pero. The 𝙉𝙀𝙀𝙀 are one of the native races of Terra. Eventually, they took the name the 𝙬𝙀𝙀 after losing their home in a war against the foreign races. However, there are many different 𝙬𝙀𝙀 subraces as well as sibling races, which we shall get into now. The normal 𝙬𝙀𝙀 are known as 𝙬𝙀𝙀. Unlike their ancient 𝙬𝙀𝙀 subraces, normal 𝙬𝙀𝙀 are often seen as mixed blood 𝙬𝙀𝙀 or not pure-blooded as they were back in ancient Terra. Banshee 𝙬𝙀𝙀 are unique, as they are a majority an all-female matriarchy subrace of 𝙬𝙀𝙀. However, there are male Banshee 𝙬𝙀𝙀, but they are rare. We only know of one male Banshee, and that is Logos, who happens to be the heir to the Banshee 𝙬𝙀𝙀's throne. Banshee 𝙬𝙀𝙀 have a manipulation of vocal and sound arts, and a connection with death, often seen as the guardians of the dead. Cyclops 𝙬𝙀𝙀 live in the northern nation on Terra, Sami. Here they live away from their violent relatives. Cyclopses moved to Sami after the Cyclops Lord of Fiends was murdered by other 𝙬𝙀𝙀s. Cyclopses have the ability to see into the future, or have visions to see what may come. It is said that these visions can be pretty accurate. Cyclopses are one of the two 𝙬𝙀𝙀 subraces that deal with the dangers of the Collapsals. Damasty isn't an entire subrace, but an ancient 𝙬𝙀𝙀 with the ability to shapeshift and multiply itself into more individuals. Diablo 𝙬𝙀𝙀s are said to be one of the most powerful 𝙬𝙀𝙀 subraces, with the ability of strong fire arts. However, this subrace is said to be extinct. With few pieces of Diablo shards left, one shard was fused with Ifrit, a Suvra, now merged with such a shard, giving her traits and abilities of the fiery ancient subrace. We recently found out about Jowett 𝙬𝙀𝙀s, and sometimes they're known as Heart Whipper or Mind 𝙬𝙀𝙀s. Jowett 𝙬𝙀𝙀s have a unique art, which is to do with heart, mind and emotions. Similar to their vampire relatives, they have to control their hunger, but for emotions instead of blood. Unlike vampires, however, they do have more control or found other ways to get over this. A vast majority of Jowett don't even live in Castel. This is because Jowett are very sensitive to emotions, especially negative ones. The leader of the Jowett is known as the Arch Liar. Currently, we don't know if they have an Archlyre at this moment. We currently know of two Joel, Nymph and her sister working as Rhode Island's HR director, who is clouded in mystery. Gargoyles, said to be one of the most ancient of all Sarkaz subraces. This subrace of Sarkaz has control over soil, stone and earth, often called the children of the soil and the stone. They have earth arts manipulation and even said to have conversations or talks with the earth and the soil. Unlike the rest of the Sarkaz subraces, the Goliath Sarkaz aren't part of the royal Kazdel court, and are known if they have a leader or not. But majority of the Sarkaz enemies we do see are apparently Goliaths. Liches are the bookworms of the Sarkaz, and very powerful bookworms at that, with the ability to manipulate space and dimensions to a vast degree. Ermengarde, the cute lich that everyone loves, once said that she could transport the entirety of Lefania if she wanted to. Is that a bluff or not? We don't know, but if true, an amazing feat. Not only do they have space control arts, but they are also completely immortal. Unlike their other fantasy counterparts, they store their souls or life in a phylactery. Revenants are a spirit soul-like race of Sarkaz. This subrace isn't technically born, but more created, as the Sarkaz will put their body and soul in the soul furnaces of Kazdel. They can inhabit objects. Nazera are based on ghouls. This subrace of Sarkaz are one of the physically strongest ones on Terra. One of the reasons for their strength comes from their deep cultural aspects of cannibalism and eating their enemies. In return, they gain increased strength and power, as well as memories and abilities of those that they have ate. The stronger Nazera often let the weaker ones take a bite out of their body, so they basically gain power-ups. Nazera King happens to be one of the oldest characters in-game, is around 7,000 years old, potentially older, as he was around with the first Sarkaz. He is often known as the War Incarnate, due to the Nazera becoming far more powerful in wars, due to eating the bodies and powering themselves up. Like the vampire myths of our world, vampire Sarkaz are bloodsuckers. They feed on blood as well as strong blood arts manipulation. Similar to the Nazera, they have an ability to empower others, with blood blessings. Vampire Sarkaz have a thirst for blood, which is a hunger they have to control, making them very fearful, even to other Sarkaz. The Wendigos are a subrace of Sarkaz that are tall and have an exposed skull, thus they wear a mask. Fortunately, there are no longer any pureblood Wendigo left on Terra, with the last one being Patriot. However, there are still Wendigo Sarkaz in the north of Ursus, led by the Wendigo King fighting the threat of the Collapsals. Just like the Nazera, the Wendigo are one of the physically strongest and have cannibalism deep in their culture. We would have to see if there are more Sarkaz subraces in the future. Now we move on to Sarkaz sibling races. First being the Anasa. This race separated from the Sarkaz and moved to Yan, distancing themselves from more wars and difficult relatives. While they kept some Sarkaz culture, overall their culture has changed. While we still don't know much about them, they do live in the wilds of Yan in tribes. Oni, a group of Sarkaz that broke away from Kazdel after the Sarkaz Lord of Fiends Column was killed. They moved to where Higashi is now and became the Oni, resembling some parts of the Sarkaz such as horns, but much more muscular. Sancta. Despite their angelic appearance, this race belongs to the Sarkaz family. However, unlike the Anasa or Oni, who diverged from the Sarkaz heritage, they were Sarkaz that accepted a force evolution or change by an outside power known as the Law, gaining light wings and a halo, which gives them 6 like sense. This race has been in a grudging conflict with their cousins, the Sarkaz, who saw the change nothing more as a traitorous move. Fallen Sancta are also a thing, which is a Sancta that has broken the rules of the law and starts to grow horns or regain horns. Now we move on to races that we aren't sure where they fit in, or if they fit in at all. Beast Lords. These entities are talking animals that have been around Terra for countless eras. Some of them show peculiar abilities such as immortality or teleportation. Supposedly, most races in Terra have their own Beast Lord representative, but only a handful have ever been shown so far. Verance. This is a race that you could describe as living gods or entities. They have unimaginable powers and abilities, get big as nations, they have an immunity to oripathy, even have their own space-dimensional travel. However, it is hinted at these beings aren't from Terra, but also unsure when they arrived on the world. There are many Verance around the world, and we only know of a few. Sami is a Verance. Kjaragander, the protector of Kjarag, the Lifebone, seen in episode 13, despite being dead, still has a conscience. It is noted that they can be killed, but they don't truly die. Another Verance we know is Surtur, not to be confused with Sarkaz Surtur. This Verance was a rival to Sami. Operators like Ling, Dusk and their siblings are all fragments of the Verance known as Sui. Elf. Similar to other fantasy elves, they are humanoid, pointed-eared race. Despite that they may have a long-lived lives, they are very weak to originium and oripathy. Unlike other races, they are very susceptible to oripathy. If an elf catches oripathy, they basically have a month to live. This makes elves very rare, but there are some found in Sami. It's indicated that they are descendants of a Verance. Duran. Like the dwarves of mythology and other fantasy, this small subterranean race lives in the underground nation of Duran. Despite their size, these little ones are excellent miners, crafters, geologists, and very heavy drinkers. Durans are a fairly peaceful race, as they live in an underground utopia compared to the other races above. However, some brave or adventurous or even bored Duran will adventure above ground. Last but not least, we are going to be talking about is you. Yes, you, the Doctor. The Doctor belongs to a race known as the First Civilization, another non-native race that arrived on Terra more than 13,000 years ago. You could say that they used Terra as an experimental ground, while also planning to protect civilization from a certain threat. Unfortunately, this civilization may be responsible for the majority of the greatest threats on Terra. This race faced a great threat from beyond, leaving you, the Doctor, the last known surviving person of its kind on Terra. It is unknown if there are more out there. Trevor Friston is one of the Doctor's race, prior to him becoming a Preserver. We may know of one more, and that is Priestess. However, we don't know if this individual has good or bad intention. There are many hidden dangers and threats within and out of the supercontinent of Terra, lurking in the sea or even the stars. If not handled carefully, it might result in the end of Terra. Here in this section, we will discuss most prominent ones that we know of. Seaborn. They are one of the growing threats in Terra. As their name suggests, they came from the deep ocean, plaguing the nations of Aegir underwater and Iberia on land. Their evolutionary rates are extremely fast, enabling them to adapt to all sorts of things and simulate everything around them. Their colonies are connected by a hive mind. A cult known as the Church of the Deep are supporting the spread of the Seaborn. Collapsals. They are best described as extra-dimensional entities originating from an unknown dimension. They are referred to as demons by other Terrans and possess an ability to corrupt other beings. Collapsals originated from two different places, a mystery gate in the Infinite Ice Fields and the Phuong Hotlands. Simply knowing their name is hazardous, hence why any form of knowledge about them is heavily suppressed by the Terran nations. The Observer. We currently know nothing about this godlike being. It is shrouded in mystery, and Terra is currently hidden from its sight. For now. The only thing we do know, it was a reason that the first civilization has gone from Terra, and that they had to build a fake sky to hide Terra from its sight. Another thing we do know is that it wants Terra, and it's coming whenever the races of Terra and you like it or not. And that is where we come to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this video, found it helpful if you're a player or someone interested in the lore. If you wish to know more about a certain nation, race or anything within the Arknights universe, don't hesitate to suggest it in the comments below. Thank you for watching.